Station lockdown initiated. Biohazard breach in Workshop 7. Commander, those are Vraxian cubs with active plasma torches. Commander Xilax's blood crystallized. Vraxian cubs. On his station, with plasma torches. The species that had, according to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Forced the evacuation of an entire colony sector, caused 18 deaths, and remained on the Galactic Council's extinction-level threat list. Cubs that would grow into creatures capable of tearing through reinforced hull plating with their bare claws. He sprinted toward Workshop 7, his security detail struggling to keep pace. Terminate with extreme prejudice. Authorization Xilax 7 Omega. Sir, there's a complication. His second-in-command gasped through the comm. There's a human in there with them. Then we're recovering a body. Xilax slammed his palm against the workshop emergency override. The doors blasted open, revealing a human woman in grease-stained coveralls, kneeling beside 3 Vraxian cubs, calmly demonstrating proper plasma torch technique. See? Smooth, steady movements. You're doing great, sweetie. No, other paw. There you go. One of the cubs, its scales gleaming with that distinctive juvenile bronze pattern that preceded their adult killing phase, carefully adjusted its grip on the torch. It made a sound approximating pride. Freeze! Xilax's weapon trained on the nearest cub. His targeting system screamed warnings about threat assessment, vital points, probable casualties. Step away from those creatures immediately. The human looked up, annoyed. Excuse me, we're in the middle of a lesson, and pointing guns at children, really professional. Those are not children! Xilax felt his voice rising to pitches he'd never achieved. Those are Category 5 extinction-class predators. Each of those cubs will reach 8 feet tall and develop claws that can shear through starship armor. They killed 73 colonists on Praxis 7 before we evacuated an entire sector. The human. Her name tag read Emma Johnson, maintenance supervisor, glanced at the cubs, who had stopped their work to watch the commotion with curious, tilted heads. These guys? Nah, they're sweethearts. Been helping me for 3 weeks now. The workshop spun. 3 weeks? Yeah, they're actually pretty good at organizing tools. And this one, she scratched behind the nearest cub's ear ridge, and the creature leaned into her touch, rumbling, has a real knack for precision work, natural steadiness. That is not possible. Security Chief Kael'thas had arrived, his scanner painting the cubs in hostile red. Vraxians exhibit extreme territorial aggression from birth. They cannot be trained. They cannot be domesticated. They certainly cannot. He watched in horror as the smallest cub carefully set down its plasma torch and waddled over to return a wrench to its proper slot on the wall. Follow organizational protocols. Well, nobody told them that. Emma stood, dusting off her knees. Look, is this going to take long? Because we're on a schedule. The cooling system in Bay 4 won't fix itself, and these 3 need to learn heat exchanger maintenance before... Evacuation protocols engage, Xilax roared. Workshop 7 is under immediate quarantine. All personnel... I'm not evacuating in the middle of a lesson. Emma crossed her arms. Do you know how hard it is to teach proper safety procedures? We just got to the "don't point plasma at your face" section. One of the cubs nodded enthusiastically, demonstrating by carefully angling its torch away from itself. It's learning, Kael'thas whispered, his voice breaking. By the ancients, it's actually learning safety procedures. Of course they learn. Emma picked up a datapad, checking something. They're curious, intelligent, and they respond really well to positive reinforcement. Yesterday, they helped me rebuild an entire power coupling. Did a better job than my last 3 assistants, honestly. Xilax's tactical computer ran probability matrices. Vraxian cubs near humans. 99.7% fatality rate for humans within first contact minute. Vraxian cubs with active plasma torches. 100% station breach probability. Vraxian cubs taking instruction from humans. Error. Impossible scenario. Reboot required. You don't understand, he tried, forcing his voice to remain steady. In 6 months, those cubs will enter their aggression phase. They will grow claws like monomolecular blades. Their bite force will exceed hull compression ratings. They will hunt anything that moves, and they will not stop until... The largest cub looked up at Emma, making an inquisitive chirping sound. Yes, we'll get snacks after this section, she told it. But only if you finish properly coiling that power cable. I saw that loop, too loose. Redo it. The cub made an apologetic sound and immediately began recoiling the cable with meticulous care. She's giving them performance feedback, Kael'thas said faintly. They're accepting criticism. This violates 17 fundamental principles of Vraxian behavioral psychology. Your behavioral psychology is probably wrong then. Emma shrugged. Look, I don't know what kind of interaction protocols you guys have been using, but treating kids like monsters generally makes them act like monsters. These 3 wandered into my workshop looking lost and scared. I gave them something to do, taught them some boundaries, and boom, best assistants I've ever had. Kids. Xilax felt something in his worldview beginning to crack. You called them kids. Well, yeah. They're what, 4 months old? 5? Emma glanced at the cubs. Definitely still babies, though they're hitting that adolescent test the boundaries phase. Yesterday, this one, she pointed to the middle cub, tried to rewire a junction box without asking first. We had a talk about initiative versus safety protocols. The middle cub looked somewhat embarrassed. Commander, Kael'thas said, quietly. I'm reading the station logs. Workshop 7 access codes have been used regularly for the past 3 weeks. During that time, these cubs they've been everywhere. Cafeteria, recreation deck, observation lounge. The records show... Show what? Xilax demanded. Show that station efficiency in Workshop 7 and adjacent sections has increased by 47%. Kael'thas stared at his datapad like it had personally betrayed him. Maintenance response times are the fastest in station history, and there's a note here from daycare saying thank you for the volunteers who helped with afternoon activities last week. Emma grinned. Oh yeah, the kids loved them, and these guys learned a lot about gentle play. It was adorable. Daycare, Xilax repeated numbly. You took Category 5 Extinction Class Predators to the station daycare. They needed socialization, Emma said defensively. You can't just isolate children. They need interaction, play, learning experiences. The smallest cub tugged on Emma's coveralls, pointing at the plasma torch. Right, sorry, buddy. Back to work. She turned to Xilax. So are we done here? Because I really do have that cooling system, and the cubs are doing so well with their training that I wanted to let them handle some of the preliminary work themselves. Absolutely not. Xilax found his voice. Fleet Command will be contacted immediately. Those creatures are to be contained, sedated, and removed from this station before... All 3 cubs looked at him with expressions that, impossibly, looked hurt. Before what? Emma's voice had gone cold. Before you traumatize 3 children who've been working hard, following every rule, and helping keep this station running? That's your big command decision? They are not children. They are Vraxians. They're both. Emma moved to stand between Xilax and the cubs, her posture protective. And you'll have to go through me to hurt them. The largest cub made a low sound and moved to stand beside Emma, placing itself between her and the security team. The other 2 followed immediately, forming a protective line, defending the human. From him, Xilax's weapon suddenly felt very heavy in his hands. Get me Fleet Command, he said quietly, and find me every Xenobiologist on this station, because I need someone to explain how a human mechanic just made the impossible happen before I officially lose my mind. Emma turned back to the cubs. Okay, kiddos, we're taking a break. Who wants juice boxes? The cubs' enthusiastic response echoed through the workshop as Xilax watched his understanding of the universe crumble piece by piece. Station Xenobiologist Zara arrived within minutes, her scanning equipment already active before she cleared the doorway. She stopped dead, her respiratory slits flaring in what Xilax recognized as profound shock. "Those readings can't be accurate," she whispered, running the scan again. "Commander, these cubs are displaying oxytocin markers, bonding hormones, with the human." "Is that bad?" Emma asked, distributing juice boxes to 3 eager cubs who accepted them with careful claws and appreciative chirps. "It's impossible," Zara's voice cracked. "Vraxians don't form attachments outside their birth pack until maturity, and never, ever with other species. Their neurochemistry doesn't allow for—" She watched as the smallest cub finished its juice box and politely handed the empty container back to Emma, who deposited it in a recycling unit. "For learned behaviors that contradict instinctual drives." "Maybe your data's wrong," Emma suggested. She settled onto a work stool, and all 3 cubs immediately arranged themselves around her feet, watching her with devoted attention. "I mean, has anyone actually tried, being nice to them?" Kael'thas was scrolling through his security tablet, his expression growing increasingly disturbed. "Commander, I've pulled 3 weeks of footage. The cubs have been everywhere. They held the door open for Engineering Chief Tavor yesterday. They organized the tool storage in Workshop 3 without being asked. Last Tuesday, they spent 2 hours in the station gardens, and the only damage they caused was—" he paused, zooming in on footage, "was helping the groundskeeper plant new specimens." "They like gardening," Emma confirmed. "It's calming. Good for developing fine motor control, too." "Fine motor control." Zara laughed, the sound edging toward hysteria. "You're teaching apex predators fine motor control. Do you understand what you've done? An adult Vraxian with enhanced dexterity could dismantle a ship's life support system in under 4 minutes. Or fix it in 3, Emma countered. "It's all about application and motivation." Xilax contacted Fleet Command directly, his hands trembling as he entered his emergency codes. The response came within seconds. Admiral Jotaro himself appeared on the holographic display, his face already set in a scowl. "This better be worth the priority override, Commander." "Admiral, we have a Category 5 containment breach. 3 Vraxian cubs, loose on the station for 3 weeks. "Then why is everyone still alive?" Jotaro interrupted. Xilax gestured helplessly at the scene before him. Emma had pulled out a datapad and was showing the cubs something, technical schematics from the looks of it. They crowded around her, making interested sounds, occasionally pointing at details with remarkable precision. "Because a human has been training them, sir." The silence stretched for a full 10 seconds. "Training them," Jotaro repeated flatly. "Vraxians. The species that caused the Praxis 7 evacuation. The species we've classified as untrainable, unmanageable, and unconditionally hostile to all non-Vraxians." "Yes, sir. She's been teaching them maintenance procedures, safety protocols, and apparently basic socialization skills. They've been integrated into station operations for 3 weeks without incident." Another long silence. Then, "I'm sending Xenobiology Specialist Vexthul and a containment team. ETA 4 hours. Do not let those cubs out of your sight, and for the Ancient's sake, don't let anything happen to that human. If she's actually achieved stable Vraxian conditioning, she's the most valuable person in the galaxy right now." The transmission cut out. "Valuable?" Emma looked up from her datapad. "I'm just a mechanic." "You're a mechanic who domesticated the undomesticable," Zara said, still staring at her scanners like they'd personally offended her. "Do you have any idea how many research teams have tried to establish communication protocols with Vraxians? How many billions of credits have been spent on behavioral modification studies?" Emma shrugged. "Probably would have been cheaper to just ask someone who's worked with kids before. They're not that different. Clear boundaries, consistent expectations, positive reinforcement, and making sure they feel useful. Works for pretty much every intelligent species I've ever met." The largest cub tugged on Emma's sleeve, pointing at the cooling system schematic. "Oh, right. Yeah, we should probably get back to work. Bay 4's cooling system won't learn to fix itself. She paused. Well, these guys will learn to fix it, but you know what I mean. You're actually going to continue the lesson, Xilax said. It wasn't a question. He'd moved beyond questions into a realm of pure observational horror. Well, yeah, we're behind schedule because of all this drama. Emma stood, and the cubs immediately flanked her, ready to follow. Come on, kids, let's show the nice commander what you've learned about heat exchanger maintenance. She walked toward the door. The cubs followed in perfect formation, tools already organized in the carrying case the smallest one had picked up. Kael'thas looked at Xilax. Sir, your orders? Xilax watched the impossible parade head toward Bay 4, a human mechanic and 3 extinction-class predators about to perform routine maintenance. Follow them, he said weakly. Document everything, and somebody find me something strong to drink. Bay 4's cooling system became an impromptu amphitheater. Xilax, Zara, Kael'thas, and half the station's command staff watched from a safe distance as Emma directed the cubs through a complex repair sequence. Okay, so the heat exchanger here connects to the primary cooling loop, Emma explained, pointing. What do we check first? The middle cub chirped and carefully tested the seal integrity with a scanner, displaying the results to Emma. Perfect. See, you remembered. Now, what's next? The largest cub picked up a calibration tool and began adjusting the flow regulator with movements so precise that Zara's scanner started beeping in alarm. That dexterity shouldn't be possible at this developmental stage, the Xenobiologist muttered, recording every movement. They're months away from having that level of fine motor control. It's as if the human interaction is accelerating their neurological development in impossible directions. Commander, we have a problem. Kael'thas was reviewing more security footage on his tablet, his face drained of color. I've been going through public space recordings. The cubs have been in contact with 73 different crew members over the past 3 weeks. And? Xilax dreaded the answer. And every single interaction was positive. The cubs helped Chef Hill carry supplies. They retrieved a dropped toy for Ensign Talana's daughter. They even sat through a lecture in the station school. The teacher reported they were remarkably well-behaved and attentive. Zara's equipment beeped again. I'm detecting play behaviors. Commander, that cub just made a joke. Emma was laughing as the smallest cub had apparently installed a component upside down deliberately, then fixed it with an exaggerated flourish that made the other cubs make chittering sounds that could only be laughter. They have a sense of humor, Zara said faintly. Vraxians aren't supposed to develop humor until... They're not supposed to have humor at all. They're apex predators. Solitary hunters. Everything we know says wrong things, apparently. Emma gave the smallest cub an affectionate scratch. Good improv, buddy, but let's keep the practical jokes for break time. We've got 17 more connections to check. The cubs returned to work with renewed focus. Admiral Jotaro's face reappeared on Xilax's comm, this time accompanied by 2 other admirals and what looked like the entire Xenobiology Council. Commander, we've been reviewing your footage, Jotaro said grimly. We need to understand the full scope of this situation. Has the human used any conditioning technology, chemical agents, psionic manipulation? No, sir. She's been using what she calls basic childcare principles. One of the council members leaned forward. That's not a real methodology. That's not a thing that works on Category 5 species. Tell them that, sir. Xilax angled his comm to show Emma teaching the cubs how to test cooling fluid pressure, all 3 of them wearing matching safety goggles that Emma had apparently acquired from somewhere. The silence from Fleet Command was deafening. We need to speak with this human immediately, another council member said. If her techniques can be replicated, we're looking at a complete restructuring of xenobiological theory, possibly resolving conflicts with dozens of species previously classified as uncontactable. Or, a darker voice added, we're looking at a human who's accidentally created the most dangerous trained killers in the galaxy. Emma's voice carried across the bay. Excellent work, guys. Now, who wants to help me with the next section? It's the tricky part where we... Oh, hey, Commander. Did you want to watch? The cubs are doing amazing. I think they're ready to handle minor repairs on their own soon. On their own, Xilax repeated into his calm. Absolutely not, 3 admirals said simultaneously. The largest cub noticed the holographic display and waved at the admirals with its free paw, the other carefully holding a delicate calibration instrument. One admiral fainted. The others looked like they wanted to. Break time, Emma announced. You 3 did great. Juice boxes and cookies in the workshop. But first, what do we do? All 3 cubs immediately began cleaning up their tools, organizing them by size and function, and running safety checks on the equipment before powering down. They're following safety protocols, Zara whispered. Multiple complex safety protocols, in sequence, without supervision. Sir, Kalthas said quietly to Xilax, I don't think we're equipped to handle this situation. This is beyond protocol. This is beyond everything. Xilax watched Emma high-five each cub in turn, praising their work. I know, he said. That's what terrifies me most. The cubs trotted happily after Emma back toward the workshop, their claws clicking rhythmically on the deck plating in perfect unison. 3 weeks ago, those sounds would have meant evacuation alerts. Now they just meant break time. The universe had definitely gone insane. Xilax was just trying to figure out if that was a good thing or not. Xenobiology specialist Vex Thul arrived with a containment team and enough sedative to drop a battleship. He took one look at the cubs sitting politely in the workshop, sharing cookies and discussing thermal dynamics with Emma, and immediately requested a chair. This violates 40 years of my research, he said, sinking into the seat Kalthas provided. 40 years, my dissertation, my life's work, everything. Yeah, that seems to be going around. Emma offered him a cookie. Want one? The cubs really like the chocolate chip ones, but there's oatmeal raisin too. The cubs have dietary preferences, Vex Thul said hollowly. Beyond kill and consume, they have preferences. The smallest cub chirped and pushed the container of chocolate chip cookies closer to Vex Thul in what could only be described as a gesture of comfort. It's trying to make me feel better, the specialist whispered. A Vraxian cub is demonstrating empathy. They're sweet kids. Emma patted the cub's head. Okay, guys, the nice specialist needs to ask some questions. Can you show him your maintenance certifications? All 3 cubs immediately retrieved datapads and presented them to Vex Thul with something resembling pride. The specialist stared at official station documentation showing completed safety courses, equipment training, and performance reviews. These are real, Zara confirmed, checking the certification codes. Signed by 3 different department heads, they didn't know they were certifying Vraxians. The entries just say workshop assistants. Because that's what they are, Emma said simply. Look, I don't understand why everyone's freaking out. They wandered into my workshop scared and alone. Their parents were killed in some conflict I didn't really follow. They needed structure, purpose, and someone to care about them. I gave them that. They responded. End of story. Their parents were killed? Xilax felt ice forming in his chest. Emma, adult Vraxians are never killed. They're too dangerous. They're only ever contained or driven off. If their parents died, the workshop doors exploded inward. 3 fully grown Vraxians, each standing 8 feet tall with claws extended and teeth bared, stormed into the room. Every weapon in the bay trained on them instantly. The cubs squeaked and scrambled behind Emma, who stepped forward with her hands up. Whoa, whoa! Everyone calm down! Emma shouted over the chaos. Nobody shoot anybody! The lead Vraxian's eyes locked onto the cubs. A rumbling sound emerged from its chest, something between a growl and a sob. The cubs peeked around Emma, chirping uncertainly. Emma, get down! Xilax screamed, but Emma ignored him completely. She turned to the adult Vraxians and, impossibly, spoke in what sounded like their language. A series of clicks, growls, and chirps that shouldn't have been possible for human vocal cords. The lead Vraxian stopped, tilted its massive head, responded. You speak Vraxian? Zara practically shrieked. YouTube videos and 3 weeks of practice with the kids. I'm not fluent, but I can get by. Emma continued her conversation with the adults, gesturing to the cubs, who slowly emerged from behind her. The lead Vraxian, the mother, from the cub's excited reaction, approached slowly. She examined each cub carefully, checking them over with her massive claws moving with impossible gentleness. Then she looked at Emma and made a sound that needed no translation. Gratitude. She says, Vexthul was running translation software, his voice shaking. She says they were separated during an attack. She thought they were dead. She's been searching for 3 months. She wants to know what human magic kept them alive and happy. Emma laughed. No magic. Just showed them they mattered, gave them things to learn, kept them safe. Basic stuff. She turned to the mother. Your kids are amazing, smart, hard-working, kind. You should be proud. The mother Vraxian made another sound, and this time Vexthul didn't need his translator. She's asking if she can learn what you taught them. She says if human methods can make cubs thrive, perhaps they can help adults too. Xilax felt reality reshaping itself around him. You want to learn human childcare techniques? The father Vraxian, the largest of the adults, nodded slowly, then gestured to the cubs, who were proudly showing their parents the cooling system they'd repaired. The Praxis 7 evacuation, Zara breathed. It happened because colonists tried to remove Vraxian cubs from what they thought was an abandoned nest. The parents were hunting and came back to find aliens taking their children. We called it aggression. It was parents defending their babies. Oh my God, Emma said quietly. That whole incident, that was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that defined a century of galactic policy, Vexthul confirmed. Because we never tried to communicate. We just assumed hostility. The mother Vraxian knelt before Emma, placing one massive paw gently on the human's shoulder. She spoke again, longer this time. She says, Vexthul translated, tears in his eyes, that humans understand what matters, family, teaching, kindness. She asks if more of her people can come here, to learn from humans, to stop the cycle of fear. Emma looked at the 3 cubs, now proudly demonstrating their tool organization system to their astonished parents. Yeah, she said softly. Yeah, I think we can arrange that. Admiral Jataro's voice came through the comm, quiet and humbled. Commander Xilax, I'm authorizing the Vraxian integration protocol, effective immediately, and someone get that human a raise. 2 months later, Workshop 7 had expanded into Workshop 7 through 12. Xilax watched from the observation deck as Emma supervised not 3, but 27 Vraxian cubs and adolescents, all working on various station repairs with their parents observing nearby. The adults had proven just as eager to learn as their children, more so in some cases. The Council has officially reclassified Vraxians from Category 5 threats to Category 2 provisional allies, Zara reported, still sounding amazed. 3 other hostile species have requested human diplomatic contact. Apparently, word spread about the human who teaches children. In the workshop, Emma was showing a group of cubs advanced welding techniques while their parents took notes. The smallest cub from that first day, now wearing a tiny tool belt Emma had made, was teaching newer cubs the basics of safety protocols. All right, everyone, Emma clapped her hands. Great work today. Clean up your stations and we'll break for lunch. I'm thinking pizza party. Who's in? The enthusiastic roar from 24 Vraxians made the station shake slightly. Commander, Kael'thas said quietly. Maintenance just reported that Emma's requisitioned supplies for Workshop 13. She says she's expecting another species next week. Something called Thoraxians. Apparently their young were classified as, let me guess, untrainable killing machines. Yes, sir. Xilax sighed and pulled up the authorization forms. Approve it. At this point, I'm not questioning human methods anymore. Below, Emma was organizing the cubs into cleanup teams, making them laugh with a silly song about proper tool storage. The parents watched with expressions that Xilax had finally learned to recognize as joy. She's going to accidentally unite the galaxy through childcare, Zara mused. Probably. Zilax watched Emma high-five the smallest cub. And honestly, I can't think of a better way. Emma's voice echoed up. Same time tomorrow, kiddos. We've got a navigation array that's not going to fix itself. Well, actually, with you guys, maybe it will. The cubs' laughter followed as they headed out with their parents, leaving Emma to lock up the workshop, the most dangerous room on the station that had somehow become the safest place in the galaxy. All because one human refused to see monsters where there were only children.